It's Rick Bassman here for Talking Tough, where each Wednesday we talk to one of the world's most toughest men or women at their most vulnerable. Whether it's a WWE superstar, the leader of the Hells Angels, the Mexican Mafia, a UFC superstar, or the head of the Navy SEALs JSOC team, the most interesting guests, having lived the largest lives, going deep behind the scenes, all the wild and crazy stories they've experienced in their lives and in their career. And then segueing to them facing down their biggest challenges. Did they hit rock bottom? If so, how did it happen? Are they still there? How did they get themselves out of it? What have they learned? It's stuff we all can relate to in our daily lives. Here at Talking Tough, we strive to be equal parts entertainment and inspiration. Please join us every Wednesday for Talking Tough at YouTube or at Launchpad One. Hey everybody, Rick Bassman here for another episode of Talking Tough, the newly revamped Talking Tough. It's only the 5th episode, I think, since the relaunch. If you remember, of course, my co-hosts were Boss Rutan and Butterbean and Flex Wheeler, absolute icons from the bodybuilding, pro wrestling, mixed martial arts world, or boxing world. All still dear friends. They've all popped in on the new revamped podcast. But I like doing these things one-on-one. Now, sounds kind of dumb because I was with famous people, and I'm not a famous person. And we were up to a couple 100,000 downloads per episode, which is pretty extraordinary. But that audience is still there with us, with me. I like to say us, though, because I have an amazing producer, John Pozorowski from the Two-Man Power Trip, my YouTube guru, Devin Hannibal Nicholson from the Hannibal TV. And we're rocking and rolling with this thing, and always out there looking for interesting guests who have stories to tell, guests who have lived some real life. And kind of counterintuitively, I really stay away from mixed martial arts and pro wrestling. That'd be the obvious place to go. Every now and then, it just makes sense to like dip back into that world that I know so well, and where I have so many friends, and bring a guest on who has lived life, been to the top, been to the bottom, has a lot of renown, not only for being a famous, like on screen or in front of camera performer, but who has a real story to tell and real experience to share. I'm happy tonight to have a friend with me. Some might say in the olden days, maybe in a couple steps removed, we were kind of rivals. When I had my UPW, Ultimate Pro Wrestling promotion, there were 3 what we call developmental territories for WWE, then WWF. And while we were all supposed to be friends and getting along, there was definitely competition amongst us. And those are the days where my infamous war with my beloved Jim Cornette started, who was the head of OVW at that time. Another man since has taken it over, took it over many years ago, and has brought it to new heights, new levels of respect, new levels of success. I'm going to have this guy on tonight. I'm really happy about it because beyond where he is now in the pro wrestling world, including a major hit show on Netflix, my God, that it just doesn't get bigger than that or better than that. This guy also is a good dude. He's a solid human being who shoots from the hip. So famous pro wrestler, famous Netflix star, presently today, my friend and great human being, Mr. Al Snow.
Wow. Thank you very much, Rick. I really appreciate that intro. That was really nice.
Oh, thank you, dude. It's like I just winged that. Maybe it might come from my days of teaching promo class at UPW.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. I might have to take you on the road with me as my promo guy.
Dude, are you like on the road these days? Are you like that, like, and I mean this sincerely, like that sought after now that you're like going out and doing a lot of appearances and that sort of thing?
Not yet. I really, I don't really have a lot of free time to do it. That's what has kind of over the last few years has kind of made me kind of back away from it a little bit because I'm so heavily involved with OVW and the day-to-day operations and writing TV and producing and directing it and all of that. It takes a lot of time. I mean, on an organization this size, on this level, and I look at what Vince McMahon does with WWA, and it's like, how does he do it? I mean, it gives me even a greater amount of respect for him and for what he's done and what he continues to do. I mean, it's a lot to really take on. It really is.
I appreciate you saying that, because the fact of the matter is, and this is not casting aspersions at humanity, but most people have no idea. They just don't know what's involved. It's like, as a promoter, promoter is kind of like a dirty word, as you know, kind of like agent is a dirty word. You may not have experienced it so much because you're one of the boys. You're a respected worker, so you are in the trenches with everybody. But I think there's a connotation about promoters being guys or women that kind of like, by virtue of that, having that title, and this is a big shift from what you just said. I want to get back to how busy it is.
Yeah.
This connotation that like you take advantage of people to make
Sure.
money off of them, and you don't really do anything for it. I mean, what do you think of that?
Yeah. That, I think, that mindset's always been there. I know it was even more prevalent back when I first broke in in the territory days of it was very much us versus them, the boys versus the office. And to be fair, there were promoters out there and their objective was to try to get you to do the most, to pay you the least.
Sure.
And to be fair, there were a lot of the boys that were trying to do the least and get paid the most, and so you've always you used to have that, and like I said, it was a lot more prevalent, back in the day. Oh, they're the office, and then there was this line that was drawn in the sand between the office and the boys, and the two never really crossed. I think that's kind of faded a little bit. It's not so much like it used to be back in the day, and I got to be honest. Like now, I do understand. Like the promoter does a lot more than just capitalize on what you do. I mean, they literally without you need them as much as they need you because they make the platform.
They're providing the platform. Absolutely. Yes.
That allows you to sell your product, which is you, and then giving you an opportunity to make yourself a star so that then the two of you can exploit that you've created, and then you both make money. The promoter, of course, rightfully so, because he's put the upfront investment in and risked a whole lot more financially than you did. He gets a bigger share of the money, but he also has to pay a bigger share of the bills. You pretty much just have to take care of you. He's got to take care of the platform and everybody that is making that platform operate, so that you have a place to sell your merchandise or sell your product, which is you. Yeah. And without either one of you, it doesn't work. So
that is so well explained, man. That was brilliant. You must. There's probably not many people on the planet right now that have that dual perspective as much so, if not more so, than you. So I appreciate that. Are there old school guys out there still, guys that came up back in the day? When I had my UPW development territory, I had I had John Cena and I had The Miz and I had Victoria before they moved over to OVW. And I give it up for OVW. You guys were the finishing school. I was the starting school, and that's fine. No ego there at all. My experience by and large back in those days is there was still that line drawn amongst people who might be predisposed to think that way. There were plenty of appreciative people. Like the Miz was gold from day one. He understood, my contribution, my wife's contribution. And I bring it up because I was watching the wrestlers on Netflix. And I see you and your wife in the same room. And I see her talking about Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but
Yeah.
it's been so hard, and this is happening, that's happening. And I think back to my wife when we're in our 2-bedroom apartment.
Uh-huh.
It's better than a lot of people have, but it's still a 2-bedroom apartment. Uh,
Yeah.
and I'm the promoter of UPW, big deal, right? Uh,
Right.
2-bedroom apartment. I look at my wife with tears in her eyes, going, "How are we going to pay our rent this month?" Because I needed to pay the rent on the training facility first.
Right.
And there were plenty of people that felt like I was still trying to take advantage of them. Maybe it's a defect in my personality. I don't know. But do you feel like that is gone these days, or more so than before?
It's the same. I realize and I have accepted the situation in regards to the relationship that I have with the talent. You know, uh, if I'm right now, because I write the TV, I decide who's going to go do what or how I'm going to feature them. And quite honestly, the talent are pretty reliant on me, not because I'm any and all of that, but because I have experience they don't have. I have a better understanding than they don't have. So I'm able to fill in a lot of blanks for them and put them in positions to where, in spite sometimes of themselves, I can actually make them into an attraction, a draw, and use them to try to motivate and make money. Um, and they love you. And you know that, Rick. They love you when you're quote unquote pushing them. When you're making the show about them, or if you're putting a spotlight on them, they love you. But no sooner than, because it's just the natural order of the business. The way this business operates is they're at the end of the day, they're a product. There's a shelf life, and it's something you have to. Back in the day in the territories, hey, you had a run. Everyone gets a run, and then that run comes to an end at some point. You're no longer hot. You're no longer the thing that's drawing money. Somebody else is now kind of catching hold. Well, now we got to kind of make way. So now, you're going to have to return the favor that was given to you on the way up. Now I need you to take a step back, so that at some point, and you got to give that favor to the next guy so that he can now stand center stage.
Mhm.
And, that doesn't mean you're not going to get another opportunity, but you have to step away. You gotta step down or step back and not be in the spotlight, and then they don't like you so much anymore. You know what I mean? You're not so popular.
I
A lot of in the locker room of, he's holding me back. I don't understand why he's not doing this with me, because they've got a vision, they've got an idea in their heads, and and you're not putting them front and center. Well,
Yes.
now you're the worst guy in the world. You're the biggest dick on the planet. Where just a month ago we were like this. And you just have to know it and understand it and expect that it's going to be like that. I
Would
mean,
would
just
would you say that you've almost like developed a cynicism toward it, healthy cynicism,
oh
or
yeah, yeah. I call myself now in life, I'm a cynical optimist.
I
So,
always call myself an optimistic pessimist. That's
oh
interesting.
yeah, I'm
Okay.
not very pessimistic, but I'm very cynically
Oh, no, sorry,
optimistic.
optimistic realist. That's what I
Yeah,
meant. I'm sorry.
yeah. Well, that's kind of, yeah. I'm very cynically optimistic.
Okay, fair enough. You're talking about these guys, and like I said, man, Al and I, for those who are watching, hopefully lots and lots of you, we talked for a couple minutes before we went live here.
Mhm.
No prep at all, just basically saying, Al, I don't know what we're gonna do. Let's see where it
Yeah,
goes. So I didn't really have in my mind to talk too much about the relationship between the boys and the girls now,
yeah, yeah.
promoters, but it's an interesting subject, and I think
Sure.
fans, I hope, are interested in that.
I think it gives people an insight into how the business really operates. What you have to deal with. You
Yes,
know.
absolutely. So the what you're talking about, in a couple of minutes ago, you said they love you. I think you did the air quotes, when things are going well for them. But
Sure.
you and I, we're veterans, and we've been around, and we're not dumb guys. I think
Right.
I think we can tell. I know we can tell when we're being worked.
Oh yeah,
And someone's treating us like they love us because they're in that spot.
sure.
And I've had plenty of guys in my time, and this is the one side of the guys, I won't name names. I don't do that anymore. There's no point in it, shooting on people. But a guy who's a top guy these days, who I pushed to the moon, who came crying to me literally twice when things weren't going his way, and I made some adjustments to push him, and ended up burying me when his push was over.
Sure, yeah.
I've had also guys whose names I will name.
Uh-huh.
Paul London is probably like my best example. Paul's a quirky dude. We all know Paul.
Sure.
But Paul was a guy that I absolutely ignored when he came to UPW. Did it on
Yeah.
his own dime. I did nothing for the guy. And this guy is like one of my favorite people on the planet all these years later,
Yeah.
because he's a good dude, and it's like that was his nature. And he ended up doing stuff for me later. And now it's like whenever there's an opportunity I can not hand out, an opportunity I can bring to somebody, I'm going to go to Paul first, because Sylvester Turkai is another one. You probably you had Sylvester in OVW for a while.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
They're just like heart and soul. They're good people. And it's like you want to do for them. I don't really have a question in this other than, is it pretty simple for you to see who's being genuine and who's being disingenuous?
Oh yeah. And that's okay. I don't, it doesn't bother me. I don't take it personally. I understand. I know how this business works, and I know why the talent operate the way they do. Some being disingenuous, and some of them are being genuine at the moment, and then of course when it no longer fits their narrative or their purpose,
Yes.
well, now they get resentful, and that I tell a lot of people who want to get into the wrestling business, like on this side of things, on the promoter side of things. I go, listen, you must understand, number one, the wrestling business is just like every other business. I mean, you're going to market your product. You're going to try to build a customer base or fan base to buy your product. You know what I mean? You're going to try to create an experience with the product that then lends itself to, motivate that customer base to want to re-experience your product on a regular basis. That's no different than any other business. But here's where it diverges. You get a Jimmy John's franchise. Well, you're going to do the same thing I do with OVW. You're going to, market your sandwiches. You're going to make your sandwiches. You're going to try to develop sandwiches that people really like. You're going to try to create an experience, and you're going to try to market all of that to build that customer base. I do the same thing. Difference is my sandwiches all have their own agendas, and they all have their own neuroticism and their own egos and their own, insecurities and inferiorities, and they all get in their own heads. They all have their own conversations that never happen, that don't really, and they all have their own suppositions and assumptions. And, I used to be one of them. So that gives me a little bit of an edge in understanding where they come from, because I went and did a lot of the same things, when I didn't need to. And so it doesn't necessarily upset me. It does when they think that they really genuinely seek out and try to make an effort to try to get over on me. That bothers me, and it shouldn't, but it does, because at this point of doing this for 41 years, it's like, listen, now all you're doing is insulting my intelligence. Come on. If you honestly don't know that I know what you're doing while you're doing it, you're fooling yourself. And, I got to give them credit, because I get busy, and, and I don't really totally focus 100% all the time on every single person. And they might get a little bit of ground on me, but then all of a sudden when I notice, and then I'm like, okay, I know what you're up to, and then they have the nerve then to make it worse by going, what? No, I wouldn't. Oh, just say, yeah, I did. You got me, and we're done. I mean, there's no heat. The heat comes from you thinking you're really going to lie to me, and you're not. So just quit.
All right, now I've got probably a weird question for you, and I'm gonna have to search to how to articulate this.
Mhm.
41 years you've been doing this.
Yeah,
The experience you're describing right now, look, we're promoters. You were one of the boys. I think I have 5 matches, so I have no pretenses about being one of the boys. Although my illusion is I like to think I have a lot of real friends from the industry, and I think I
well,
do.
yeah,
Must
yeah,
have I guess I did hopefully something right along the way. But having been the promoter or the agent, I had plenty of this too.
yeah, yeah,
And we all have our shortcomings, and we all have things we want to work on. One of mine still these days is like processing resentments. And at this age, I would hope I wouldn't have any.
yeah,
I hope one day I don't, because it make me a better person to not have that. But here's what I'm leading to. You've talked about people that might treat you in a certain way.
yeah,
Um, without asking you to name names, because this is not a shoot show. I never do that. Um,
yeah.
if you could think about the one person in your mind from this business who has, like, quote unquote, burned you worse than anybody else,
Uh-huh.
and you haven't, you never really processed it forget with yourself, with them. If that person walked into your office tonight,
Uh-huh.
would it be worth having the conversation with them, or do you just pretend all is okay?
I think, for me, it is okay. I mean, it's done, and what are you going to do? I mean, it's not like, so you're going to get them to apologize. Oh, wow. You know, wow, that's a weight off my shoulders. I don't care. You did what you did, and you had your reasons, and it's water under the bridge, quite honestly. Move on, But now, if you're going to come back in and you think you're going to try to do it again or treat me the same way again, well, then now we're going to have a conversation, and we're going to resolve this. Because to some point, I'm going to hold myself at fault, because one of my biggest faults, quite honestly, this will sound crazy to say, is that I am tolerant to a fault. I'm way too tolerant, and I'm way too patient with people's behavior. And people mistake that kindness as a weakness.
Mhm.
And I tell people all the time, look, that is the biggest thing you can mistake, is because if you push past that point of tolerance and patience, the one thing you're going to walk away from is not thinking that I'm kind, and I'm not saying that as a threat or whatever, because it's, I abhor, physical violence. I'm not that I wouldn't do it, but in the right situation, but I can become incredibly, condescending and snarky and smartassy, and I can emotionally tear people up verbally, you
I've
know.
never seen that in you before. And interesting. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's a negative part of my personality. So, I could do it. I don't do it all, I used to be a little bit more when I was younger, and I've gotten a lot better about it as I've gotten older. And a real thing that has helped me is really realizing, I mean, really genuinely realizing two I feel are inalienable truths. One is that I absolutely know the only person on this planet I can control is me. And I always tell everybody, hey, I can give you advice. I don't like doing it, because if you're smart enough, you really don't need me to tell you. You kind of already know the answer. And if you're dumb enough, you're not going to listen anyways. So why do we need to waste each other's time? You know what I mean? So you do you, because I know at the end of the day, whatever decision you make, I don't have to go to bed with it. I don't have to, I don't have to wake up with it. So I'll empathize, I'll sympathize. You know what I mean? I'll care about you, but I can't control you. I can only control me. Simple as that.
Amen. And amen to that. That I guess
And
age and experience does bring some wisdom, hopefully, right?
uh,
Not
the
for
other thing that I know and I really feel and believe is that no one makes me feel anything. No one. You do a behavior, you say something, you have a comment, you have an idea, you tell a story, a joke. I interpret that, and then I get to choose how I'm going to feel. You know what I mean? And there's not much or many that are going to make me decide that it has to be a negative emotion.
Dude, if you are truly in that place, and I am not challenging you, bless you, man, because that's where you like attain peace in your life. And and I love this because here's two like wrestling guys talking about
Yeah.
the kind of stuff that Wayne Dyer or The Secret or Marianne
Yeah.
Williamson espouse on the daily. Dude, but it's real shit. It really is. Are you like, and I never thought we'd get into this kind of question. Are you like a student of the metaphysical world, or
Oh yeah.
or
Yeah.
you come to
I
this
always
by
have been.
yourself?
Always have been, and I'm always in a philosophers, great philosophers, and Stoicism. I've realized that my the process or whatever the belief I now have or behavior is akin to Stoicism, and being Stoic, and 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 I'm not perfect. I mean that it's you can't control all of your emotions or anything. I'm not Spock from Star Trek. Uh, but I certainly I do now take more responsibility for my own emotions, and not put them on that responsibility onto somebody else.
Yeah, and you don't let whatever way the wind blows affect where you're going at that particular moment.
Yeah, yeah. I still get frustrated, and I'll still get not maybe get worked up or whatever. I don't necessarily get angry, but I'll get worked up or things like that. But doesn't doesn't last, and I don't hold on to it, and I move on with life.
So here's another weird question for you then, and it's so far apart from talking about pro
Sure,
wrestling,
yeah,
and I love this.
yeah,
Like what is your like internal like interpersonal goal for yourself? When how like my dad, who was like the nicest guy in the world, and I loved him
yeah,
dearly, he died at 80. And my dad would still get like really worked up, like at a waitress if she screwed something up.
yeah,
Like, Dad, come on. He was a great guy. He really was.
yeah, yeah,
I would say my dad did not die a peaceful person, bless him, a good person for sure.
yeah,
Like my goal, one of many goals, is when I finish the journey here on planet Earth, is I hope to like be genuinely nice to every person I encounter in every situation, and,
sure,
but not to force that actually have
yeah.
come to a genuine place for me. It sounds like you're on a great journey. Are you able like to articulate
Oh,
what?
I think I've been on a great journey. A couple truths, more truths, if you want to hear them. I mean, that I feel like I've, discovered in my life. My father passed away years ago. And I'll have to apologize. I'm not good with time anymore or dates. But and my stepfather had passed away uh, in a while, but and this was just recently my older brother just suddenly passed away, had a heart attack and passed away.
Sorry,
And
all that.
I but I look at now, myself included, everyone and everything in your life, including yourself, is a story. Every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you can never start a new story until one story comes to an end. And I think my job for me is I just got to make the best story possible. You know, I've got lots of great stories thanks to living a certain story throughout for 41 years. I've been blessed to live an awesome story. I've gotten to meet people like yourself and do a podcast, do this interview, go places, see things, do things that other people only literally reading books or watch on the internet or whatever. I've been on 4 or 5 safaris in South Africa. I'm not bragging. These are things
Oh,
I've done.
I get it. I get it. Yeah.
I've dove off of a 40-foot waterfall in Iceland, seeing the Northern Lights. The list could go on and on. You know what I mean? So I've got this amazing story, and my job is to help others live their stories too, you know, and just when I go, then, my goal is that when I leave to have as many people miss me when I'm gone.
I think that's a very worthy goal, man, for sure. In recognizing the story you're living at the time you're living it, and I think it's
Yeah.
very, very interesting what you said. One of my biggest regrets is, like yourself, I've had like hundreds, if not thousands, of like off the charts experiences in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And there are so many I look back on and go, I just didn't get it at the time. I didn't
Oh, yeah.
appreciate it at the time. So you're the star of a major Netflix hit right now.
Yeah.
Are you like going, oh my God, this is great, this is so cool, or is it just another day at the office for you?
No, it's definitely not just another day. I am so grateful for it. And when I really, okay, when you really think about it, I mean, how lucky am I? Seriously. How just absolutely step in a bucket of shit and come out smelling like a rose lucky am because I was the star on 3 seasons on MTV on Tough Enough. That's a once in a lifetime, Rick. Literally, to have an opportunity like that, and it was some of the most rewarding and awesome stuff I'd ever done in wrestling. You know what I mean? And then out of nowhere, you get yet another chance to be featured in something somewhat similar, you know, and I mean, just I'm blown away. I mean, I am so absolutely blessed and grateful and thankful, and in all of the positive feedback. I mean, I was terrified that that one possibility was that nobody would talk about it, because poor Danny Cage and the Monster Factory, they did a docu-series or whatever that aired on Apple Plus TV. Brother, nobody, like, it was like sagebrush was rolling down the street,
I've never heard of it, so there you go.
Correct.
Right.
Nobody even in the wrestling world talked about it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And then I was worried about that. And then you're always, when you put yourself in, which I've known that for a lot of years, you want to be in the public eye, you want to be in the center of attention. Well, not all of it's going to be in front of you. There's going to be a lot of it that's going to be behind you, and it's not all going to be positive. So you got to be able to withstand it and have a thick skin, So I was prepared. Thought I was going to get a lot of negative stuff, a lot of remarks, especially on social media. That's the place everybody feels really confident to, because it gives them an outlet to voice, their feelings and their opinions, which always are pretty naturally negative. Mm-hmm. But it gives them a bit of anonymity, so they can speak really from how they feel, without feeling, because they have no repercussions, they can make any comment, any remark, any accusations, whatever they want, and they're going to get away scot-free. But surprisingly, everything on the show, social media wise, everything has been completely positive. I mean, 99.9% positive, and it's just blown me away. I'm so grateful for it, and having an incredible, talented director producer like Greg Whiteley, who did Last Chance U and Cheer, and he and all of his crew, that they all made. They didn't just make OVW or me or the wrestlers. They made the wrestling business. They treated it with real respect, and they showed just how passionate everyone is that's in this profession,
They have done a good job of that, and I was absolutely going to comment on that. And it's really good to see. It's not an expose. I think those days hopefully are long behind us anyway. But yeah, I really thought that it treated or treats the business with the respect that that it deserves. There are two questions I want to ask off of this.
Yeah.
The first is, you're very candid, as are the other people on screen, about talking about and addressing the challenges that face you in the OVW business. At least
Sure.
at the time you were in production. Like
Yeah.
if you don't have a sold out house in the final show, you might have to fold the money that's being lost, so on and so forth. You guys are really candid about that, which I appreciated. How much, if at all, has this show affected the condition of the OVW business?
Oh, we've because we do live television every Thursday night, and it's not like we have a huge building anyways. I mean, we only see about 400 people, but we were doing better. Business was picking up, and we were doing sellouts here and there along the way, but we've literally for the last 8 weeks have sold out every television
Wow, great.
podcast.
You could
And
attribute that to a degree, at least, to the Netflix show.
oh, absolutely, yeah.
Good.
Netflix show has given us an incredible boost in not only awareness but relevancy.
Okay.
And we had a pay-per-view in October, and 3 weeks prior to the pay-per-view, we'd already sold the live attendance out for that.
Wow.
We have a television special that's going to be on Thanksgiving week. It's not a pay-per-view, but it'll have marquee type matches, and that we're already practically almost sold out of that. So, live attendance wise, it's really dramatically done that. It's brought another investor who not only has some capital to reinvigorate the company, but also has a lot of business acumen and tools and connections that can help us really scale up OVW to another level.
So when you talk about scaling up to another level, what are some of the big business goals for the next year or 2 or 5?
Securing it. At some point, I'd love to secure a television deal of some sort. That we can, be able to monetize our television show. That really is the name of the game. Is to try to monetize it as much and then reach a larger audience. And once I feel like we have an audience that's aware of us, I really feel confident that we can, drive ratings, and we can drive all of the other components of the of the business through that television. Because like Vince Russo and I always have this, debate. But even though he's kind of quietly acquiesced, even though he doesn't want to give it up, he doesn't want to stop the argument. Right. And that is that he's always like, it's a wrestling show, is a TV show. And I'm like, no, it's not. Never has been, never will be. Wrestling show is, without a question or a doubt, no ifs, ands, or buts, it's a commercial. It's a 2-hour or 1-hour commercial to sell your product, which your product are the wrestlers. And you use that platform to give them individual commercials during that period of time to sell themselves. And that then sells live attendance, it sells television ratings, it sells merchandise sales, it sells licensing agreements. All of that because you do that commercial disguised as a television show.
Well said. All right. And on the heels of all that, here's a challenging one for you. Mm-hmm. So I'm watching your show. I'm watching the boys, the girls, some of whom I had the pleasure and privilege of meeting when I visited you a few months ago. All right. So let's say you get that TV deal, whatever it looks like. This is a tough one, Al. So evade it if you will.
Sure.
You say we a lot. You say, I notice this. You say we, our, and us. And I love that and I respect that because that, OVW, you're the face of it. You're the helm. You could say I and me and my, but it's a team effort and revolves around and involves a lot of people.
Sure.
Tomorrow you get that big TV deal.
Yeah.
Who's your talent roster? How much of it comes from your current roster, or how much do you have to go outside?
I know. The same. Why do I have to go outside?
And you know that answer immediately. That's great.
Yeah. And you know why? Here, I'll tell you why. Why am I going to go outside? I'll tell you, if I go outside, you're going to ask me to go get a talent that's now going to charge me money, because you know as well as I do, Rick, this is the way it works. Not the way that it's gotten all jacked up. Okay. This is the way the entertainment industry works, not just the wrestling business, but the entertainment business works. Okay. People get hot when I say this. I really don't care. As you know, nowadays, if like, you're like, okay, you got to go outside of OVW and you got to go get yourself a talent. Well, I'm all for that. Okay. But why am I going to go outside and get a talent who's now going to charge me a much greater nightly rate, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they're not going to draw.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That I'm now going to have a higher overhead with, that I'm going to have to put them on my TV and do exactly the same thing that I'm doing with the existing talent I'm doing for them right now. So why am I going to pay somebody more to do the same thing that I can do with the talent that I'm paying less? And not because they don't, I'm not paying them less because I want to. I'm paying them less because I don't have the resources to pay
That's
more.
what you paying with the equation merits. I understand.
Because the way that the entertainment industry works is this. If I put a talent's name on any piece of advertising, how many people are going to see that talent's name and are going to be motivated to then take action and buy access to viewing that talent do their job? If the equivalent is zero, that's what that talent's worth. But nowadays, that's not how it works. Nowadays, the precept, the mindset is, hey, I'm wrestling for you like I work at Walmart, and so therefore I'm entitled to get paid because I'm performing a task.
Right.
No, you're not.
Right.
I'm putting you in the ring on my platform, on my television show, to allow you to sell yourself.
Yes.
And
yes.
then if you successfully sell yourself, we both make money. But if you think it's like you digging a ditch, that you're performing a task for me, guess what? I already know you're not going to get over whether I put you on there or not.
Right.
Because you don't have the right mindset.
Yep.
For us both to be able to capitalize on our efforts together. You're just simply going to go out there and perform. You're not going to work a wrestling match and entertain an audience. And there is a big difference that has been lost in understanding the term work, because the definition of a work is to make an audience believe a lie. And you and I know very well, the only lie in wrestling is that the match is already predetermined as to who wins and who loses. So the only thing I'm ever selling to that audience is who I am as a person and my intent behind everything I physically do in that ring. That's it. And that's all that audience wants to believe in. But you as a performer, not a worker, you're going to sell what you do, because you think all of what you do is what motivates that audience, and it never does.
Wow. Have you written a book yet?
I did write a book called Self-Help Life Lessons from the Bizarre Wrestling Career of Al Snow. Okay. So
when did you write it?
A couple of years ago. It's still on Amazon.
I look at your posts every now and then, and I'm like, that guy explains these microcosmic parts of the pro wrestling business better than anybody else. And it seems like there should be a book of wisdom by Al Snow about navigating the wrestling business. That's why I was asking.
Somebody would probably read it. Not many read the other one either.
Well, now that you're a big Netflix star, maybe that's not the case.
Maybe they'll pick it up. Yeah.
Maybe so. So 41 years, that's 1982?
1982. Yeah.
82. Hell, I can still subtract in my old was kayfabe was still kind of sort of a thing back then.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
All right, so kayfabe, for those watching who are uninitiated, means those inside the business protect the business. You put the word out that it's real. It's real.
No. Kayfabe really, if you want me to, I'll explain.
Yeah, go
Kayfabe.
ahead.
Kayfabe was it was a weird signal word that you would use in situations that did not allow, you didn't want to let somebody, a fan or a mark or somebody who was not inside the business, you didn't want to smarten them up or overhear something. So you use the word kayfabe in a sentence like, hey, that girl asked about you last night. Her name was Kayfabe. Remember her? And you'd be like, oh, yeah. And you knew right then and there there was somebody in the midst that you didn't want to smarten up. Kayfabe really was because since the 1940s, and at least in the United States, the general audience has known that wrestling's predetermined. And kayfabe was kind of a respect for the audience, and basically us saying, hey, we know that we know, but we're never going to really insult your intelligence. You understand? We know you want to believe, and we know you like it, because that way you can enjoy it, and you can get like there's a consequence to the wins and losses, and it really matters to you to see the outcome. We're never going to just rub it in your face. We're going to give you the respect of allowing you to be entertained, and not shit on you for doing it. And that's no different than if you go, major motion pictures, and the producers and everything go through such painstakingly great amounts of work to ensure that at no point in time while you're at least in the movie theater that you're ever taken completely out of that world, that
Right.
you can be. And the same goes for wrestling. It's just for wrestling, we've got to, we are selling you who we are, and we're selling you why we're doing it. Well, we can't stop. For an actor, they can just be a different character. But for us, you're believing in us. And so if I don't keep that up and keep selling that to you, then you're disappointed because you don't feel like you got what you paid to see.
For sure. And of course I get all that, but what you're doing, and this is I'm on your side, by the way.
Yeah.
What you're doing on Netflix is you're explaining to people exactly what you're telling me right now. Where in the olden days, whenever that would all be
You
hidden
wouldn't
away.
have done it, yeah. And that was it. I was very reticent. I got to be honest. I was very reticent about doing the Netflix thing, but I trusted Greg that
For that reason, primarily.
for that reason. And here's why. And I always use this analogy because I think it's the best analogy. There's so much of your life, right, that is like, it's like the movie The Wizard of Oz. Okay. Life is black and white, and there's no magic to it anymore. As an adult, we lose all of that. That's why I love children, because when they're young, everything's possible. It's all magic. So once Dorothy goes to Oz, well, then the world becomes all colorful because it's all full of magic until the end, where you pull back the curtain.
Right.
And there's a little old man pushing buttons, twisting dials, pulling chains, and now it goes back to black and white. So I didn't want, and I kind of had that conversation a little bit. And I said, listen, I know I've got to commit. All of us do. And I really was proud of all the staff and all the talent and all the employees, that everybody committed that we weren't going to be half pregnant. We either all open it all the way up or we don't. And everybody did. Even their personal lives,
everyone, just as a comment, everyone seems very comfortable with that as well. That's what I've gotten by watching.
Yeah. But the one thing I really admire about Greg Whiteley is that he had enough respect and reverence for, and an understanding, I think, innately, that he pulled back the curtain, but he didn't pull it back so far to where he completely killed the magic of the wrestling business.
Mm-hmm.
He just added and enhanced your experience of it.
I would agree that you've all achieved that balance for sure.
Yeah.
Al, I cannot resist. I have to bring it up. I have to.
Sure.
Has Jim Cornette seen the show, and has he commented to you?
I think he has. And of course, Jimmy's not said anything to me.
Okay.
And I get it. I mean, Jimmy, Jimmy knows his gimmick and he knows what drives his audience because he's very successful with his podcast. And I think he took a little bit of a more of a negative bend towards it. From what I understand, I didn't actually hear directly what he said, but I know he didn't talk on it much. He just briefly hit upon it, and he didn't give it a tongue lashing, that's for sure. But he also didn't give it a sterling review either. So,
Okay.
which
I
is
have
okay.
to ask, man, and I push every now and then. Like in 1998, I produced a 1 hour special for the Discovery Channel called
Mhm.
On the Inside Pro Wrestling School. And I did it with Tom Beers. Tom was a guy who created and produced and distributed the Axemen and Ice Road Truckers and Deadliest Catch, some big, big shows. And oh my God. And that we chronicled 5 people kind of coming up through the ranks. That's right when John Cena started. So
Yeah.
Kevin was one of those before he became John Cena.
Yeah.
Jimmy lost his shit, man. Oh my God. Wow. Never heard the end of it. So I had to ask. That's all. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that he has found some peace 20 some years later and that this shit is cool with him now. That's all. There's no
Yeah.
question there. Just saying. So
Jimmy's Jimmy. You gotta love.
oh, but do we freeze?
Oh,
We froze
can you-
for a second there.
never. I said Jimmy's Jimmy, and you gotta love him. You know what I mean? He just is what he is.
I,
That's again. That's
I love him too. If I come back to Louisville, though,
Yeah.
can I please fight him at the OVW training center?
no. No. Easy. I look. Here's me being me. I can't control Jimmy. You know what I mean? And I know Jimmy very, very well, and I know how much Jimmy cares, and I know Jimmy doesn't necessarily communicate his caring and his passion the proper way all the time, and it comes across the wrong way. But he really is. It's from a place where, because he absolutely desperately loves the wrestling business, and he is rabid about protecting it and its integrity and the respect, because I think we all kind of get that too, that we've been the wrestling business, and I don't really quite honestly understand it, but it's been so maligned for so long by all parts of society and the other parts of the entertainment industry, when in spite of the fact that it's been a part of the American culture for more 100+ years, over a century, in the public eye, and has, without a question or a doubt, drawn huge, large live event audiences consistently, much more than just about any other sports entertainment out there. And yet it's still maligned, and oh, you like that? That's fake. That's fake. It's like, well, thank you, Murder She Wrote. How long did it take to put the clues together?
Right. Well, Murder She Wrote, that was all real, right? I mean, Angela Lansbury was an actual detective in real life.
Correct. Yeah.
Right?
Spider-Man was a documentary about a young teen boy shooting jizz from his wrist and sticking to a wall. I mean,
exactly. And Rambo killed 400 people in a forest in 3 days, right?
And magic is real. They actually defy the laws of physics and alter gravity. I mean,
I'm with you on the general public at large reputation about pro wrestling, but like you said, 100 years plus proven track record. And if people want to be open-minded enough to give it a chance, dude, I rescue pit bulls. That's probably the biggest passion in my life.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm bringing this up now is they are the sweetest dog breed on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
There are 90% of the people watching right now are going, those dogs are vicious, right? They don't know. They don't want to give it a chance. Oh, well, thank God for the 10% of us who know the truth and are advocating for it.
Sure.
And I think, there's enough of a pro wrestling audience that we're all going to be just fine.
Yeah. And, when you do good storytelling, and you have relatable, connectable characters to the audience, then that's when you generate that crossover where you really start bringing in even more and more of the general, or what I call Mr. and Mrs. Walmart audience, which is what I desperately am always trying to get.
Okay. Okay. So you're desperately always trying to get that. You're 41 years in now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what do you want to do, and what do you want to be when you grow up? What's the goal? I mean, are you satisfied? Are you frustrated? Where
Both.
are you in life?
I'm very satisfied and I'm very frustrated. Both. I always want more. I want to grow OVW to a place where, I know at the end of the day, every young guy and girl getting into the wrestling business, especially now, which is so disappointing, it's all destination. All of its destination. I want to go to WWE. Here's the two destinations. I want to go to WWE. If I don't go to WWE, I just want to get signed. I want to get signed somewhere because that's my card carrying, And it was funny, like, we were I do TV review class, and this was quite a while ago, and I'm reviewing stuff, and one of the guys is like, when did you go to WWF? I go, well, how long had you been wrestling, when you got there? I said, well, I went in 95. I started in 82. I'd been wrestling for like 13, 14 years ago. 13, 14 years, until you got signed. I go, well, yeah. And they go, oh, like, why did it take so long? I go, well, probably because that wasn't my goal getting in. My goal getting into the business was just to be in the business and do it. I knew if I got in, I'd make money, and I've made plenty of money. Sometimes I've made more. Some territories I made less. Some runs I, made a lot more. Some runs I made a lot less. It just depended. I said, but, WWF was just another territory that, I could go to and then get to work in front of an audience and make money. It didn't matter to me. It boggled his mind. He was like, how he could not understand that, because they're so consumed. But I keep trying to advise them, because again, smart enough. I don't need to tell you. Dumb enough. Probably not going to listen. But I still advise them, and I go, with that attitude of the destination, I promise you get there, you're not going to be happy. I said, I can call any one of my kids that are there right now. I said, no, we'll be on the phone for 2 hours. And you know what that phone call will consist of? Them bitching constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I said, for two reasons. One, we as wrestlers, that we are notorious because we will bitch about everything. You could pay a professional wrestler $1 million a year and have them work one night. You know this is a fact, Rick. Mm-hmm. One night a year, and they will find something to bitch about. Whether I didn't get first class, or I had a layover, or I'm working in that building again, or I'm working with that guy, or I didn't get to work with that guy, or I got to win, I got to lose, I got to go that long, I got to go that short. They'll find something to complain about. It's just what we do. And the other part of it, which they don't grasp and they don't understand, is just how unbelievably competitive being in that locker room in WWE is, mm-hmm. and the stakes that they're playing for, mm-hmm. and the fact that you literally, there is no day off ever in the wrestling business. You have to be thinking 2 and 3 moves ahead of everyone that you're sitting in that building with constantly. Mm-hmm. That's both your fellow wrestlers and all of the staff and employees as well. You have to be on and being able to notice what everybody's doing, and because everybody's working an angle. Mm-hmm. And if you go out there and get 30 seconds of television time, there's somebody in the back who thinks they deserved it more and are going to do everything they can to take that 30 seconds away from you.
That's right.
And don't fool yourself, because as you go up the ladder and the stakes get higher, the pressure gets worse and the game gets harder. And you're playing poker and chess 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, if you can survive for any length of time in that environment, brother, there ain't many people that are going to get over on you in any walk of life, period, because you are so tuned in to watching, listening, acting, and not selling, until you need to. I mean, it is like playing poker, but you've got to be on. And when you're at home, you're still thinking and working and keeping those things going. That's why they're miserable, because they complain about the schedule, and the schedule is hard. Physically, it's hard, but it's mentally and emotionally much more of a challenge than anything else.
Dude, again, explained so well. This is why I asked about you and your book. I my book finally comes out this year, and I have
Congratulations.
Sorry.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I have about a 2-page introduction to mixed martial arts and a 2-page introduction to pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And I don't talk about the business. I talk about the individual and how that person has to be as a person, what their experience is like. And that said, I want to send it to you now just to look at offline, because it so mirrors everything you just said, man. It's not an easy job, that's for sure.
Oh God, no. It's probably one of the hardest things you can do. It really is. And I tell that to a lot. I told it to another young guy. He was like, "Oh, all I want to do is wrestle for a living. You can do it right now. Right now, you could wrestle for a living." I said, "But you don't want to." He goes, "Why do you say that?" I said, "Because you love your job." He goes, "How can you say that? I don't love my job. I hate my job." I go, "No, you don't." He goes, how can you say that?" I go, "Because you haven't quit." I said, "That's why that you love your job." And he goes, "Well, I don't love it." I go, "Yeah, you do."
Yeah.
He goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "Here's the difference. Okay. You go to work and you are an employee. You have made an agreement with wherever you work that you're going to be there. And for each hour you're there, you're going to get paid a certain rate per hour. That's the only agreement you have. You're going to perform a task, whatever task they assign. And that during those hours that you're there, you're going to get paid this per hour." I said, "You show up tomorrow and you're like, you know what? I really don't feel like putting 100% in. I'm going to just glide through the day and I'm going to put about 45% effort in."
Mm-hmm.
You expect and are entitled to get 100% of your money.
Right.
I go, "Aren't you?" And he goes, "Yeah." I go, "Here, if you're in the wrestling business, you have to put in 100% every single day. And guess what? You are not entitled to get 100% of that money. Sometimes it might take numerous days of you putting in 100% and not getting a return, until all of a sudden now you start getting that return down the road." And I said, "That a lot of people don't like doing." I said, "So don't fool yourself."
It takes a special individual. I'm sure people out there watching this right now are saying, "Sign me up for that," right?
Right.
Oh my God. Yeah. So here's a fan question. People watching your show now on Netflix, watching wrestlers,
Yeah.
understanding the goal is OVW is going to continue to grow. You'll get the big
Right.
TV platform. Your stars will be your stars. Prior to that happening, is there anybody we're watching on wrestlers right now that is the next big thing for WWE?
Oh, potentially, yeah. There's quite a few there that could be. And there are some that are very young, and are just at the beginning of their career. There's a couple that are longer in the tooth, that have been doing this for a while on the indie scene. But as well as I do. I mean, you find the right person at the right time and put them in the right place, and they'll draw money.
They get that
Look at Marty Wright, Boogeyman.
Yeah.
He was 40 years old when he came to Tough Enough, and got us. He got hired.
Our good friend, our good mutual friend, Dallas Page, 36.
Dallas Page started late. Became a major draw. Became a star. So there is no rule as far as that totally 100% disqualifies a person. If they think that putting you in with the right other person can do business and can draw them money, you are going to get that opportunity to do it.
Yeah, and you never do know. It's like back when I had my school at UPW, Ultimate University was the name of the school. We had literally over 1,000 people through that school over the years, which compared to OVW is probably a small number. He probably had a lot more. We had a guy named Sean Ricker come through. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
I didn't look at him twice. I'm like, okay, another guy. LA Knight.
He came
right?
here. When he got here, right?
Mm-hmm.
What a story.
Did you see it? Did you see it? Because I didn't.
Not initially, right? He came in with a kid by the name of Mike Cruel. His dad was out of New York. His dad was a worker. And then another kid out of Texas. I can't remember, Eddie something. So they came in like a trio at the same time, right?
Okay.
And Mike, awesome hand in the ring, you know what I mean? Ed was solid. And Sean could talk, had a personality.
Okay.
But I didn't know what, I couldn't figure out what to do with him, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And then I did an angle with Sean where, he went to blind, throw the fire or whatever, blind somebody, it backfires. And then he goes around faking that he's blind all the time.
Okay.
And I was able to do all kinds of business with this guy, and he got over where he got,
Okay.
When they took people down to Florida, they took him down to Florida. I don't know if you know the whole situation with Sean,
No.
He got released, from his developmental contract, and then it just crushed him. And he called me, on the day that he took his own life. So, he called me and I called the police there. They got there too late. He had already taken his own life. So, and that's why I advise so many of these young guys and girls, to not it be all about the destination, and not allow the professional wrestling business to become who they are, because it'll eat you alive, and unfortunately it did for Sean. He just didn't see how he could go on living when his purpose for living had come to an end.
All right. So I have to bring, it's going to be embarrassing probably for me. Because people out here watching are probably going, wait a sec. I'm so sorry, Al. I almost want to do this after we're off the air. But which Sean are we talking about now?
Sean Ricker, he was Bad Seed.
Oh God, and I screwed that up. Okay, my mistake. Wow, yeah, and I do know about that, of course. This is me being dyslexic and getting old. I was referencing LA Knight, who came through my school.
On that, yes.
Who's also Sean, of course, and I just
he's Sean as well, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't see that back in the day. Then
right. But
and then the reason I really got confused is for a second I thought you were talking about my dear friend Sean O'Hara, who took his life, of course.
And Sean O'Hara had taken his life too, pretty much a lot for the same kind of reason.
Yes.
This we talked about it on Wrestlers on Netflix. I talk about how this gives people a purpose for their life, and and then that's why I really advise, don't make it about the destination. You know what I mean? Make it about the ride. Because if you make it about the ride, so if you get cut from WWE, you get cut from WWE. So what? Go work other places. And then you might go back, and when Cody, I trained Cody Rhodes, and when Cody wanted to leave, made a quote about, well, good for him, he quit on his own terms, and everybody's like up in arms, like, how could you say that? I'm like, if he makes the choice and he goes someplace else and gets himself back over, he can have another run. He can come in a better spot, and look where he's at. Look at Drew McIntyre, same thing. Sometimes it's a blessing to be removed and then given an opportunity and freedom to reinvent yourself and come back and put yourself in a better spot.
Well, it adds perspective to the game of life. That is for sure. I've seen it time and again where people come in, go out, get another run, and are all the better for it, and recognize that at the time. Who Who would you say you're most proud of that's come through your
all,
OVW system for not only where they are in their career, but like who they are as a person?
all of them, every last one of them. Do you know why? Because they did one thing that the rest of the population doesn't. They believed enough of themselves to take a chance. I genuinely believe, no bullshit. I'm not feeding anybody. And again, it's your choice. You can do whatever you want. This is just advice. Okay. I genuinely believe anybody can do absolutely anything they want to do. They just don't. They don't do it. They don't pursue their dreams. They don't go after stuff, and you just got to be honest with yourself, because if you have to be willing to, if you want to live a life that others don't live, you got to be willing to do things that others don't do.
That's right.
And let's face it,
Very
most
powerful.
people aren't willing. Most people love their jobs. They love to be comfortable. They love to show up every day. And hey, I'll put 65% in today. I feel good. I'm going to give 85%. I'm still going to get 100% of my money. And I know I'm going to have that false sense of security, which is completely a bullshit sense, because you at any moment in time could be laid off. They could cut back. Your job ain't guaranteed no matter where you work. But there's that belief that we're all taught of, just follow and just go to work every day, regular job. You don't have to go cheat. You chase your dreams, you might fail. And which I don't get that either. The only way I've ever failed is if I quit.
So Al, you're right now, and God love you for this. You're freaking out a lot of people that are watching this because they're going, "Oh my God, that's me. He just pegged me."
If you want something bad enough, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find.
What do you tell that person who had this this moment where they woke up and go, "Oh my God, yeah, that's me. I'm collecting 100% of my pay for doing 65%."
And listen, that's fine. I'm not condemning anybody. That's cool. I don't care. That's your choice, man. You live your life. That's fine. But I'm just telling you, if you wanted to go do something else, you could. And I can't do it because I'm at this point in my life. Yeah, you could. You just don't. Will it be hard? Yeah.
Yeah.
Will it be? Will you be? Will it be a challenge? Absolutely. But is it something you're passionate about doing and you would enjoy? Well, then guess what? You can't fail. If you're doing what you're passionate about doing, and it gives you a purpose in life, then how are you failing? We get so caught up in that person's successful. Why are they successful? Well, they're making money. Well, that doesn't make them successful.
No.
You know what I mean? They could be the most miserable,
That's right.
cunt on the planet. Just because they're making money doesn't make them successful. Oh, well, they win X amount of, well, that doesn't make them successful. They could still be miserable, not be happy.
Al, this hour plus has flown by, and I don't slate your time, but I want to wrap like right on the heels of everything we've been saying, and I'll put you on the spot here for a second.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say sincerely, man, you are so freaking wise. It's blown my mind tonight. No,
I don't think so.
you're very, and I appreciate the self-deprecation. I really do. I think so for what it's worth. Maybe not.
Well, I appreciate that.
So someone out there is watching this and they're kind of like woken up for a moment and going, maybe I'm like not where I want to be or should be, or I'm a little dissatisfied, or I'm nowhere near where I want to be.
Okay.
If you catch somebody like in a moment where they're going to admit that to you,
Yeah.
what life advice do you dispense on the spot?
Go do it. You don't want it. You're not a tree. You're not planted in the spot. You know what I mean? Go do it. Change. Go. Why aren't you? At the end of the day, what's going to happen to each and every one of us? Stories are going to
we're all going to ashes, man.
Rick, everything dies. Everything. Not everyone. Everything. Everything has a beginning. Everything has a middle. Everything has an end. What do you got to lose? Seriously, what do you have to lose? Well, I might lose my savings. Well, you're going to lose that anyways. At some point, you're going to lose it. How do you know that tomorrow you're going to wake up? You don't. What are you waiting on? Should I get off the pot? Go do it. Have fun and go enjoy yourself. Do what you like. Do what you want to do. Do what you have to do. Take care of your responsibilities, but find ways that you enjoy it to do it. That's why I always say I've been blessed for 41 years because I've gotten to be able to go do what I like to do to take care of my responsibilities. Has it been easy? God no. God no. There have been lots of hard times. Doing OVW is not easy. It is hard, man. I'm telling you, it's a ball buster. Do I love it? Do I enjoy it? Yeah. Why? Because I am insane, apparently. Otherwise I wouldn't know why. But and am I happy and satisfied with where I'm at? No. I want more. I want to, and I'm gonna just keep pushing until I get it. So.
Well, can we say that you are happy but not satisfied?
I'm very happy. I really am. I have got an amazing family. I've got an amazing wife that I love very dearly. I get to do what I love to do, just in a different manner now through OVW. And I've got a lot of amazing kids here and a lot of amazing people that I get to help. I've said for years now, if my one legacy I think I'll leave in the business is all of the kids who I have taught and brought into the business that have went on to have careers. And if that's it, then I'm thrilled. I couldn't be happier and I couldn't be prouder of what I got to, I got the blessing to get to do. So, people can debate about my career and its success or failure, or oh, he was only this, he was only that. I don't care. I think I won. At the end of the day, I think I've won, and I'm still winning because I get to do what I love to do. And people come up all the time. I had this argument with Mick. Because fans would come up and they'd ask, what's your favorite match? And Mick would always have, specific ones, and I don't, because every time I've gotten to go to that ring, I have loved every minute of it, whether it's, and then some of them are easier. Some of them you get frustrated. Some of them aren't as rewarding. I still love it. I still enjoyed it. I still could not think of doing anything other than that, and so how can I just pick one? Just having a blast, getting to go out there and, you get to be a magician, a rock star, a superhero, an adventurer, movie star, all at one time, and you can tell your own stories. And you get to do the one thing that makes wrestling as an art form of storytelling unique. And that is you get to create a moment. And that moment, no matter what you think or what people think, you can never predetermine. You can say, I want to shoot for this and I want to make that moment, whatever it is, as much as possible emotionally of that audience. And you and that audience get to experience it. And even if they film it, it never exists or lives in the same way again. It only exists in that one moment. And that is amazing, nothing more rewarding than, I tell people all the time, whether I'm wrestling a match or I'm, telling a story over weeks and sometimes months and sometimes over an entire year, I'm always working towards just that moment. And when that moment comes off, that way I want it to come off, there's nothing better in the world. It's so absolutely awesome that I could not ever find words that could do it justice to describe it.
I wouldn't even ask you to try it because you've already done that. Al, it's like, dude, it's such a pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
it's like the cliche or the rote thing to say at the end of all this. It's such a pleasure to have you on. But dude, seriously, this was. I love your philosophy. I appreciate it. My grown-up goal is to be able to articulate it as well as you do. So thank you for that. And
Thank you.
dude, it's great having you on, and I like truly, sincerely wish you and your wife and your family and your OVW family
Yeah.
all the best of everything, man.
Thank you, Rick. I really appreciate that, man.
And let's stay in touch, my friend. Yes.
Absolutely. Be more than happy to.
Thank you. Hope to
Thank
see you
you.
soon.